guys, welcome back to another video on Navigating Life with Nikifa. If you're new here, I'm Nikifa, and if you have not yet done so, please subscribe to this channel. You can subscribe by clicking the button down below or clicking the subscribe icon that is on your screen. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, by the way. Whether or not you're going to watch it to the end, don't forget to like this video. So now we're going to continue on Mordecai, his life, his journey, his story, and just his process, just as how we tapped into Esther and we spoke and said, hey, Esther's arise. Now we're talking to our men and we're saying, men, arise, Mordecais, arise. So in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about the process of becoming honored for Mordecai. So Mordecai is basically his process of honor, getting to that place of great esteem, of high esteem, and him being honored, not just per se in his family or, in a smaller way, but in a major way. So we're going to get into the story. If you have not yet read it, I implore you to go read Esther, the book of Esther. It's a very beautiful biblical book. And now we're going to talk all about Mordecai. So excuse me if you see me probably looking down and looking up. I'm trying to get information out to you and, just enjoy. So as it relates to Mordecai's process of becoming honored, and promoted per se. So basically this is how it started. On occasion, when the girls in the palace would gather, Mordecai would sit at the king's gate, right? And on one occasion in particular, Mordecai overheard two of the king's officials, the officers, Bigtan and Teresh, angrily conspiring to assassinate King Xerxes. Right, so Mordecai took note of it. He took note of it and he told Esther, and she reported it to the king and had it credited to Mordecai. The matter was investigated, found to be true. The men were killed. The men were killed, and all the things were recorded in the king's journal in his daily entries. And I wanted to take note of that. Nothing really happened for Mordecai then, but what he had done, reporting it and, they found out that it was true. So it was all recorded. The king took note of it. So because of his faithfulness basically to God in not bowing down to Haman, there was now a decree that went out to destroy all the Jews. If you don't know who Haman is, it means you not read the word. And brother, my brother, I beckon to you, go and read your word. Go and read the word, because I can't give you all the details here, but if you read the word, you'll get the whole story. So because of Mordecai's faithfulness to God in not bowing down to Haman, there was now a decree that went out to destroy all the Jews. And if you watch the first video, you remember me saying Mordecai was a devout Jew. So that destruction of the Jews would include even Mordecai plus Haman, through his wife and his friends' counsel, sought to have gallows 75 feet high constructed to hang Mordecai. And this was because Mordecai would not bow to him, because Haman had gotten a promotion from the king and Haman is full of himself and it gets to him head and he want everybody bow to him. But Mordecai, being a devout Jew, only bowing to the one true and living God, decided that he was not going to bow to Haman. So Haman vexed, take up on him head, say Mordecai for dead. And then he was not just satisfied with Mordecai dying, but now he wanted everybody who's a Jew to die. Right, so there was a decree that went out about that. So now the enemy was basically trying to make a show or mockery of Mordecai by doing this. So because Mordecai wasn't a man who was going to bow down to anybody else, the enemy was trying to make a mockery of him by putting this in Haman's life, in his mind, to do this through his wife and his friends' counsel. Men, be careful who you take counsel from and who is giving you counsel. Be careful who is speaking into your spirit. It's funny because, listen, be careful of the friends you keep, and be careful of even the women that you yoke yourself with and how they are influencing you mentally and influencing you spiritually. Be careful how you yoke yourselves to certain people and even certain women. It's not the first. I think there's in the book of Job, his wife, I don't remember the role that his wife played, but I knew it was a very significant role, and I'm not sure if it was very positive. But let's talk about Mordecai for now. So that night, the king couldn't sleep, so he ordered the records of the daily journal brought to him to be read, right? And he came across Mordecai's honorable deed and asked, what was done in honor? What was done in distinction, for Mordecai for this? But nothing was done in return. He found out that nothing was done for him. But then now, in the midst of all of that, Haman, he was approaching the king, right, ready to talk to him about hanging Mordecai. But this is where the plot twist came in that Haman never saw coming, right? So instead, the king said to Haman, seeing that Haman was coming to him at the time, and I'll tell him, I read, he's being read to. He said, all right. The king asked him, to Haman. The king said to Haman, what should be done for a man that the king wants to honor? Haman now, take it up on fame head, thinking too highly of himself, being puffed up. So he thought he was, the king was planning to honor him. So Haman thought highly of himself, so he thought it was him, and he answered based on what he thought should be done to him, right? So Haman answered the king, for a man the king wants to honor, have royal robes brought, with, which the king himself wears, and the horse the king himself rides, with a crown on its head, with a royal crown on its head. The robes and the horse should be handed over to one of the king's most respected officials, and they should put the robes on the man the king wants to honor, and lead him on horseback through the streets of the city, proclaiming ahead of him, this is what is to be done for the man whom the king wants to honor. So all Haman had planned all of this, and I say all of this, Haman thought that he was going to be the one to be honored. But this is where the plot twist of honor comes in. Oh my God, this is one of my favorite parts. Like, I love this book. So the king said to Haman, this is the whole plot twist, right? Mandim, hear me clearly. So the king said to Haman, hurry and take the robes and the horse as you said, and do for Mordecai the Jew. That's the whole plot twist. That is the whole plot twist. So all along, because of Mordecai not bowing down to him, because he felt obligated and entitled to Mordecai's worship, but Mordecai was worshiping God instead. Mordecai had his heart inclined unto God instead, and because of this, Haman felt like, all right, I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill him and people him. And little did he know that Haman had done an honorable deed, a deed that had integrity behind it earlier for the king. And it was written down, but there was nothing done for him. So now the king is saying, hey, let me do something for this man. And being the king that he is, he never really mentioned that, hey, I'm doing this for Mordecai. But he just said, plainly. And I love how God strategically organized that, because if Haman knew it was probably for Mordecai, he wouldn't have gone all out. So I love this plot twist of honor. Right, unexpected honor to come. Mordecai probably never expect none, right? So then the king said, do this for Mordecai the Jew, who sits at the king's gate, and don't leave out anything you mentioned. Not left out nothing. So this was the whole plot twist. Haman now in a shambles. Haman was just in shambles, all of that. So Haman took the robes and the horse and dressed Mordecai. Imagine the man who sought to kill you, to destroy you, to dishonor you, having to now have to dress you for your place of honor. Just imagine that, man. Listen to me, hear me well. This story is powerful. It is powerful when you take your time to read through, read between the lines of what is really happening. So, oh, glory to God. So Haman took the robes and the horse, dressed Mordecai and led him riding through the streets of the city as he proclaimed for him. This is what is to be done for a man who the king wants to honor. Then Mordecai returned to the king's gate, but Haman rushed home with his head covered in mourning. May the enemies of your soul, may the enemies of your destiny run from you with their heads in mourning because of them wanting you to bow to them, but you didn't bow to them. I pray that God will honor the men watching this, that God will bring favor upon the lives of the men watching this because of their integrity and their heart and service unto God first and foremost. So now, after Haman had told Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends everything that had happened to him, his advisors and his wife said to him, there's another plot twist for Haman that he did not expect, and I think as readers we didn't expect either. So his wife and his advisors, his friends, were basically saying to him, no, listen, if Mordecai, the one who you now begin to, before whom you have begun to fall, is a Jew, you will not get the better of him. On the contrary, your downfall before him is certain. So first, they're going to advise you that, yeah, man, set up something for kill him. Yeah, man, him out of order. Set up things and hang him. Crucify him. How they did Jesus? Crucify him. But at the same time, afterwards, after them done, and this is the thing, that's why I've said to you, be careful whose counsel you sit under and who advises you spiritually and gives you, particular directions and insight and all of that in your life. Because 1 minute they will direct you and give you insight, all of this, and the next minute they are going to say to you, boy, I better you did millionaire. Boy, I better you just, because right now it rough on your side and them not gonna have nothing to do with it because they're not in the midst of the story. It's just on you now. So be careful as men who you take counsel from and who advises you, right? So now, yes, after all of that now, Harvona, one of the king's attendants said, look, the gallows 70 feet high that Haman made for Mordecai, who spoke only good for the king, is standing at Haman's house. So the king said, hang him on it. Just hang Haman. hang Haman on it. So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then the king's anger subsided. So the king was no longer angry. So the same trap and device and evil scheme that the enemy had set for the person who didn't bow to him was now becoming his means of destruction. So the same thing that they had set up to kill Mordecai, because Mordecai was not going to compromise his faith. Mordecai was not going to compromise his listen, Jews don't play. Those who are, devout Jews and all of that, will set themselves aside for God, they don't play. So the same thing where the enemy planned for him to come back around and kill him. Sad to say, but that's just that. So now the king removed his signet ring, which he had taken back from Haman, and gave it to Mordecai. Then Esther put Mordecai in charge of Haman's house. So imagine inheriting what your enemy once had. Because before Mordecai was honored and esteemed, Haman actually held the high position, for the king. So he was the king's charge. But now that had been given to Mordecai, and now Esther had put Mordecai in charge of Haman's house. And Anna, I want to point this out, that Anna gave him a place of authority and gave weight to even his voice and his stance among the king and queen. That's for Mordecai. So Anna gave him a place of authority and gave weight to his voice and stance among the king and queen. In the verse where it says, so King Xerxes said to Esther the queen and Mordecai the Jew, listen, I gave Esther the house of Haman, and they hanged him on the gallows because he threatened the lives of the Jews. You should issue a decree in the king's name for whatever you want concerning the Jews, and seal it with the king's signet ring, because a decree written in the king's name and sealed with the king's ring can't be resigned by anyone. Right? And the fact that, read the story, because Mordecai had done this before. Not Mordecai, sorry, Haman had done this before, but as I say, I won't go into all the story. Read the book, read your Bibles, right? Anyways, so the king's secretaries, were summoned at the time, and on the 23rd day of the 3rd month, the month of Sivan, and a decree was written according to everything Mordecai ordered concerning the Jews. So Mordecai gave orders now, Mordecai is now esteemed and honored and promoted to a place where he's now giving orders. I want you guys to take note of this. I will soon go into, his character, his anointing, his grace, all that. We're going to get into some more, but this is just the story of him being honored. So written according to everything Mordecai ordered concerning the Jews, to the army commanders, governors, and officials of the provinces from India to Ethiopia, 127 provinces, to each province in its own script, to each people in their language, and also to the Jews in their script and language. Coming down now. Meanwhile, Mordecai left the king's presence arrayed in royal blue and white, wearing a large gold crown and a robe of fine linen and purple. And the city of Shushan shouted for joy, for the Jews, all was light, gladness, joy, and honor. All the officials of the provinces, the army commanders, the governors, and those that occupied, those occupied with the king's affairs helped the Jews, because they were afraid of Mordecai. So honor gave him that level of respect. So it started out as just integrity. It started out as just having a good heart, as him just being a good man and reporting something to a place of being honored and promoted. And I really hope you guys are getting the backstory on this, because this really is powerful, especially for our men. For Mordecai had now become a powerful person in the king's palace, and his fame had spread throughout all the provinces. Mordecai continued to grow increasingly powerful. Mordecai continued to grow increasingly powerful. He was revered, he was respected, and he was feared in a good way, for what he had done. So in the end of it, basically, for Mordecai the Jew, he was now only second, was second only to the king Xerxes. He was a great man among the Jews, popular with all his many countrymen, and he sought the good of his people and interceded for the welfare of all their descendants. And this is where it kind of ties in, where we see a little bit, we can pull a little bit about this, a little bit from this on Mordecai's character, his heart, what he really was about. So I really want our men to get this message and read between the lines with what I'm saying. I will get into it more, in more content to come on Mordecai Arise, but I just want our men to be encouraged as it relates to Mordecai's process of honor and the process of him being promoted. And I really pray that you men will position yourselves in the kingdom, in service unto God, to be promoted, to be honored, to be esteemed by God, because it comes by the divine orchestration of God's hand upon your life and his word over your life. So position yourselves, align yourselves accordingly, and arise. Mordecais arise in integrity and in honor. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and do not forget to share. Thank you guys.